everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 3 Marketing Spend Trends Shaping 2021 Strategy. I'm Claudia Tarico, editor of Demand Gen Report, and I will be your moderator for this presentation. Thank you so much for checking out this session today. We've got an esteemed panel of experts on deck to discuss new data insights about the massive changes marketing organizations made to budgets and strategy in 2021, which will hopefully help you plan for 2020, which will hopefully help you plan for 2021. But before we begin, I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping slides, and then we'll get right into it. So for those of you who are new to Demand Gen Report, we are an online media company publishing daily news, a weekly email newsletter, special reports, original research, and a rich menu of additional resources. So if you haven't done so already, join more than 75,000 subscribers by subscribing to demandgenreport.com today. Of course, don't forget to check us out on LinkedIn and Twitter. All of our links and handles are right here on your screen, and we look forward to connecting with you on social. We also just actually wrapped our B2B Sales and Marketing Exchange virtual experience a few weeks ago. But if you missed out, no worries. All of the amazing content is available on demand. So please check it out. There's plenty of presentations on there that'll help you kind of better plan for 2021 as well. We're also really excited to be partnering with our friends at Grubhub again to offer some lucky attendees a free lunch while they enjoy the sessions. So check those inboxes for an email from Grubhub to access that lunch credit. For today's presentation, we'll be using this On24 platform, and during the session, you can access all of the information that you need right here on the platform toolbar. So during and after today's session, please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback on Twitter and LinkedIn using the hashtag SPS20. And if you're strictly on Twitter, you can actually tweet from directly within the On24 platform using the widget on the upper left-hand side of your screen. We also encourage you to ask our presenters questions today, and we will have a brief Q&A after the presentation ends. So to do so, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of your screen. The session is slated to run about 30 minutes with a few additional minutes of Q&A following, so submit those questions at any time with that widget. If you want to see what else we have in store for the series this year, you can see all of the SPS sessions on the bottom left of your screen. And then on the bottom right, you'll be able to find some additional resources that we've made available to you. Today's session is, as always, being recorded, and all of the attendees will receive an archive link to the session to go back and review and share with colleagues. And in addition to joining the conversation online and submitting your questions here, we also welcome you to let us know how we're doing. We want to constantly improve the level of value we provide you with all of our webinar series and virtual events. So we've put together a very brief survey that will automatically launch when the session ends. You could actually also pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during this webcast by clicking on the survey icon circled at the bottom of your screen. So before signing off today, please take a moment to complete this very quick and brief questionnaire. All right, so now I'm very excited to introduce one of 3 featured speakers for today. Her name is Julia Stead, and she is a CMO of Allocadia. Julia has a decade of experience driving marketing leadership and revenue at high-growth SaaS companies. And as CMO of Allocadia, she is focused on helping marketing leaders accelerate business growth by planning strategically, investing with purpose, and maximizing performance. Prior to Allocadia, Julia was VP of Marketing at Invoca and Head of Sales and Marketing at IPfolio. She's been named a DMN News Top 40 Under 40, a Top 40 Demand Marketing Game Changer, and ABM Superhero. She also holds an MBA from the University of Montreal and a BA in English from McGill University. So we are in very, very good hands. So I'm going to pass things over to Julia to kick off the presentation and introduce the rest of our panelists today. Take it away, Julia.
Great. Thank you very much, Claudia. That was quite the introduction. Very happy to be here. I'm really excited to chat with Bill and Lisa today on the topic of planning and strategy and budgeting. So let's kick things off with some more informal introductions with Bill and Lisa. I'll start things off with Bill. First of all, thank you for joining us today, and would love to hear just a little bit about yourself and your company, as well as if you wouldn't mind sharing one positive thing that's happened to you in your marketing world so far in 2020, because it's been a bit of a challenging year. So kind of kicking things off with starting on the positive. So Bill, welcome and introduce yourself, please.
Great. Thanks, Julia. I'm Bill Dominski. I'm the Vice President of Corporate Marketing and Operations at Equinix. I'm based in Northern California in the San Francisco Bay Area. For those of you not familiar with Equinix, Equinix is the world's digital infrastructure company where digital leaders will use our trusted data center platform to bring together and interconnect their foundational infrastructure. And based upon the description of Equinix, you can probably say that our COVID experience in 2020 has been met with large demand for our services and capabilities. So as we go through some of the panel discussions, our experience was a bit unique. But I would say one of the key things that I found through this was just the resiliency of our marketing organization. We were an event-heavy team. And obviously with COVID, we went from probably 25% of our activities being events to 0%. And through all of that, we actually have delivered more MQLs to our sales organizations in 20 than we did in 19, exceeding all of our internal goals. So with all of that transition, our marketing organization has still been able to deliver, which I am hugely proud of. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, and congrats to your team. That is very impressive. And it will be really interesting to hear your perspectives as we dive into some of the questions today. Yeah. Lisa, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company and some positivity from this past year?
Hi, Julia. How are you? Great to see you. Thanks for having me. I am Lisa Horner out of Santa Barbara, work for Appfolio. And we're a vertical SaaS technology company. We build software for the real estate and investment management. Our customers use all of our software to run their entire business. And they use our software to communicate with their customers as well. So this online platform has been very successful and highly used by our customers this year. And we really have seen, just like Bill, an increase in demand and use of our technology. I'd say one of the most positive things that has come out of this year for us is just customer intimacy and really a deeper understanding of how our customers can really use our technology to be successful. So just spending more time and being really deeply involved with the success of our customers has been just an amazing and positive thing for our company across the board.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful to hear, and welcome. And I'll chime in too with some positivity from my role at Allocadia. Similar to Lisa, it's about the customer. For us, for better or for worse, when COVID hit, we were really forced to put more emphasis on our customer. Sort of the idea of first look inward and secure your base before going outward and driving for more. And I think this has been a very positive thing for our business. As a marketer, I think we all always aspire to put the customer first and really optimize that customer experience. But sometimes it doesn't become number one on the list. It falls to number 2 or number 3. So COVID helped orient us to be even more customer centric. And from a marketing perspective, really focusing on providing empathy and delivering value. And so through my budgeting and planning, executed upon this through greater emphasis on community building, support, and education campaigns for our customers, which has just been positive and sort of like you were saying, Lisa, just getting to know them better. It's been wonderful, a lot of fun. So let's dive into the meat of our session today. The topic is 3 spend trends shaping 2021 strategy. And here's just a quick overview of what we'll be walking through. So I'm going to start things off by sharing some data trends from a marketing benchmark report that Allocadia published this fall. And then we'll dive into a panel discussion touching upon some of those sort of meatier topics that I've outlined there. Significant shifts in budgets and channels, how we're all balancing the concept of growth versus frugality in uncertain times, and then really what's changed for our organizations as we tackle 2021 planning. And then, of course, we love audience participation. We love questions from you all. So keep those questions coming, and we look forward to saving some time at the end for that. So starting off with some benchmark data. The State of Spend report is a investment benchmarking report that Allocadia published this fall. And what we did is we looked at anonymously at our database of customer spend trends and looked at Q1 versus Q2 versus Q3 for the year 2020 to really see how marketing budgets and spend and forecast shifted throughout the initial and sort of ongoing post-COVID phases, I guess you could say. So this was focused on companies mostly in the mid-market and up space, but also some SMB. We surveyed or we gathered data from over 50 companies, all in the B2B space. So with that in mind, I'll share some initial key takeaways. So event budgets plummeted by 46%. I'm sure this is a shock to nobody listening today, but what really piqued our curiosity was, okay, the data backs up what we all kind of knew. Event budgets went away, but where did those dollars go? Were they reabsorbed sort of back into the company budget and considered just cost savings for the year? Or did marketing organizations quickly pivot and reinvest those event dollars somewhere else? And when we dig a layer deeper, we wanted to look at the concept of digital and digital transformation, and how initially when COVID hit, marketers were all talking about, okay, we've got to just move everything to digital. But did they actually do that? Did they take their event budgets and channel it all directly into digital, and how soon? So what this graph shows, the blue bars are the change in spend from Q1 to Q2. So how budget shifted in the digital ad space right when COVID hit. And then the green bars are sort of that second phase from Q2 to Q3, as we all started to adapt more long-term to the impacts of COVID, that additional wave of adjustments to digital ad spend. And then we broke it down by company revenue size, which you can see along the bottom of the graph there. The key takeaway, the initial one was, hey, it really depends on the size of company that you're at. So SMBs and enterprises, when COVID first hit, modestly increased their digital ad spend in Q2, and then pretty much sort of stayed the course or adjusted spend a little bit more, increased a little bit more in Q3, sort of through the summer and early fall. Mid-market companies, a little bit of a different story. They reduced budgets right off the bat in Q2 when COVID hit, and then started to ramp up spend again in Q3. I said modestly, moderately. So nothing too dramatic, but reinvesting once the initial impact was absorbed, I guess you could say, or processed. Large enterprises, however, completely different story. So fairly dramatically slashed digital ad budgets in Q2, and then the pendulum swung completely in the other direction in Q3, and they really invested quite heavily in digital advertising. So you could sort of hypothesize here, they played more of a, hey, freeze everything while there's the most uncertainty and while they're still sort of understanding what consumer sentiment is going to be like in reaction to marketing. And then once they got a better lay of the land and started to feel more confident in how things were shaping up in their market, really heavily went I don't want to say all in, but went very heavily in on digital. So the next trend that we wanted to call out today is just that balance between investing in demand creation activities versus awareness programs. And when the pandemic first hit, a lot of analyst firms were talking about keeping the brand lights on and not ignoring those sort of general brand awareness programs too much. But did marketers actually heed that advice? Not so much. Awareness programs got some decent cuts, whereas investment in demand creation and sort of protecting that immediate next short-term revenue stream was where the investment prioritizations lay. Again, looking at how this breakdown in brand spend played out by company size, it still differed pretty greatly by the size of your company. But what we see here, so This is showing from Q1, so pre-COVID to Q2, the thick of initial COVID impact, what happened with brand spend. And we're seeing SMBs basically slash their spend on brand and PR, whereas they did, if you remember, increase their digital ad spending at the same time period. The mid-market and enterprise segments modestly to somewhat strongly, I guess you could say, increase their spend in brand as well as digital advertising at that same time period. And then large enterprises, again, took that really, whoa, let's hit pause on everything during Q2, see how this is all going to play out, see how the dust is going to settle, and really substantially cut their brand and PR spending in Q2. This is going to be the third trend, and then we're going to move over to the panel discussion so we can get some conversation and firsthand perspective on this. But the last point here is around investment in loyalty and customer advocacy. I mentioned myself at Allocadia, this is an area of investment that we prioritized pretty quickly on when COVID hit. What we're seeing here is in that first initial period, spend here decreased a little bit, not substantially. So this could sort of play out as, again, everyone was a little anxious as to just what in general is going on. So we're not going to ramp up spending substantially, but we're not going to cut it substantially either. And then as they started looking forward to future spending forecasts, about half of companies forecast that they would increase loyalty and advocacy spending by at least 20%. So sort of acknowledging, hey, we do have to invest even more in recognizing our customers and supporting them. We're not necessarily doing it right immediately, but that's going to be baked into an increased investment as part of our long-term plan for, I guess you could say, that road to recovery. So a couple of kind of final key takeaways on the data points. One is that the impact of COVID-19 will be long-term. I think we all know that as marketers, but what we're seeing sort of shape up here is companies will double down on customer and loyalty spend and really continue to emphasize that protecting and supporting and empathizing and understanding the needs of their current customer base. And then also just this idea of how to offset the impact of layoffs. A lot of marketing organizations did go through personnel layoffs over the past 6 months, whether it was early on or sort of rolling throughout the summer. And it takes time to rebuild teams and ramp up hiring again, whereas program dollars are a lot easier to dial up and dial down. And so through some of the different data points, we saw that a clear pattern in an increased need to dial up program funds quickly, or an increased plan to dial program funds up quickly, since that will be the fastest lever to pull in terms of investment in growing the future. So we will provide a link at the end to the full data report. Highly recommend you all take a peek and sort of dig around and see how it compares to what you experienced at your team. But at this point, I'd really love to dive into the discussion point with Bill and Lisa. So these are the three buckets, if you will, that we want to dive into. But let's start with that first topic there. And let's really talk about significant shifts in your marketing budget and your channel investment and how your team specifically was impacted in 2020. What did you do with your events and field budgets? How did you balance brand versus demand? Lisa, do you want to kind of kick us off and share your thoughts on that one?
Yes, absolutely. In preparation for this webinar, I really sat back and walked through that kind of March, April timeframe. And, as March hit, we had two things going on, right? We had, not only our marketing customer impacts, but our own internal impacts. So our entire company went online. I'm here from my home office, right? So we had this combination of things occurring. One, every person in our company moving into a remote and online work setup, as well as our customers going through that same thing. There are a few key things that we saw as this hit us in March. We saw every one of the events in Q2, which is our very largest event season, cancel, right? And all of the third-party partners and trade show hosts really did not have an instant virtual capability. So we had just a complete shutdown of the events in our space. We migrated as quickly as possible to owned virtual events versus trade shows, et cetera. And we just designed just instantly, as fast as we could, with external speakers, internal speakers, customer speakers, online forums, peer-based networking events, customer webinars that held like this instant rapid research so we could learn with our customers and bring that learning to market as fast as possible. So we made a quick pivot from like a dramatic reduction in invest budget to a virtual budget shift. We also saw like just a really quick reduction of CPCs, right? So brand, competitive, and generic terms. We had competitors just fly off those terms. So without even us thinking about reducing budget in digital, right? We just had just a reduction in the cost of digital overnight. It was like a light switch. So for about, I would say 60 to 70 days, there was just a natural cost reduction just by CPCs reducing. So we found ways to reinvest those dollars, but not as much as we actually had to spend savings, interestingly. So that was an interesting thing for us to go through.
That is fascinating. Did you see the CPC swing back up once everyone sort of realized like digital is kind of all we've got at this point for interactions, or did they stay, were you lucky enough that they've stayed low?
When I look at year over year, they did swing back up, but they certainly are not back up to the prior year's investment. So we still are seeing a bit of a cost reduction on CPCs in our market for all of those types of terms. So that was an interesting kind of external factor that impacted our investments. I think where we really saw the big investments, loyalty and customer marketing, customer engagement and education. We completely rebuilt all of our storytelling and marketing to what do our customers and market, what do they really need? And we shifted our marketing, every single story, every piece of content, asset, and program. So we spent a lot of effort, time, and dollars rebuilding within really a 3-week period, the next 2 quarters worth of marketing. So we heavily invested in content marketing, and that's where a lot of that set of event dollar savings went.
That's neat. It reminds me of an area of marketing that hasn't been discussed a lot so far in this presentation, but for us, product marketing was an area where we invested maybe not as many dollars, but people resources to, like you were saying, sort of alter our positioning and our messaging to really speak to the pain points of today, and then also make it easier for customers and prospects to educate themselves more self-serve through digital formats to replace the kind of in-person education that we would do at trade shows. So product marketing for us kind of rose to the forefront as well from a resource perspective. Bill, really curious to get your take on this one.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, as I heard Lisa's question, you know, just reflecting back to March and April. One of the benefits of being a global company, though, for us, you know, our journey started back in January as we started to see office closures and Asia really start to feel the effects of the pandemic. And so we got a little bit of an early head start in regards to knowing what we might start to feel in the rest of the world, watching and seeing what was happening in Asia. We set up a series of Tiger teams to really address what our opportunities were. We had 3 Tiger teams. Most important was our communications Tiger team, focusing in on both the internal and external communications, really making sure that our customers knew we were there to support them. We had an events Tiger team to just sort through all of our contracts. What are we going to do? Long-term, you know, planning starting on our events team. And then we had our transition to digital promotion. And really for us in that theme, similar to what Lisa shared about how we rebuilt our marketing, it was all about, you know, what is it that our customers need? What are they going through? And then how can we best position ourselves to support them? And so our marketing efforts really had more of a "we are here for you" than really trying to take advantage of the situation, so to speak. Our journey was very similar to Lisa's in regards to where our dollars went. Like I said in the opening, we were very event centric. A lot of those dollars went into paid media, content syndication, as well as virtual events. One area that you had asked about was also just the impact on channel. We didn't want to reduce our investment in channel, but our engagement with our partners was event-centric, and our transition to digital with our partners, especially in our Q2 timeframe, was a little bit slower. So actually our real dollar spend actually decreased, but not by design. Just there really wasn't anything for us to spend the dollars on. Having to make the trade-offs as it relates to demand versus brand, I think this is probably where I would say, either from an effort perspective versus a dollars perspective, in the Q2 timeframe, we had heavy investment from a people perspective working on repositioning and reframing our brand. So we didn't have a big investment in dollars in brand going on that we were looking at. Do we move those dollars? It was more of working on the content and the messaging surrounding the repositioning of the brand, which will bring me to some challenges going into 2021. But not necessarily in 2020 on the brand investment side.
Yeah. It is interesting to see sort of the similarities through some of the things that you and Lisa mentioned. I did want to actually call out one thing, because I think it is pertinent to this audience. So you mentioned the concept of tiger teams. I remember I first heard about tiger teams about 2 or 3 years ago, and I pictured like Tony the Tiger from Frosted Flakes. I'm like, what is exactly the tiger team? But I think it ties into the concept of agile marketing. And I don't mean the formal practice of agile, capital A, but just how marketing organizations are adopting some of those formal agile practices to be more nimble and pivot and be more iterative in their planning. And so if you wouldn't mind, just for the audience, explaining a little bit what a tiger team is and how it helps you to sort of work faster or in more of an agile manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that was the mantra for the teams, was to actually bring agile marketing. And I'll even say we're trying with the capital A about bringing in the agile principles. But tiger teams are where you think about it as a project, but think about it as a project team that's coming together in a crisis to solve a specific problem, meeting on a daily basis, checking in. What do we need to get done today? What obstacles do we have? What is it that we're going to get done for the rest of the day? And then you just check it again on a daily basis, just monitoring the progress, making sure that you're eliminating any of the hurdles, et cetera. And so it can be very rewarding. Things move so much quicker. Your time to resolution just improves, but it's really temporary, because that level of intensity, trying to drive that work, you can only sustain it for so long. And so, our tiger teams lasted for about 6 weeks or so, and then we disbanded and learned that COVID's going to be around a while, and how do we just incorporate it into our new normal. But that concept of tiger teams and the agile principles are definitely, like I said, there's so much we learn in terms of crisis, resiliency, our ability to be agile, or just, like I said, there's just a lot as I reflect on our marketing organization to be proud of, and our ability to be way more agile than we were previously was one of our learnings through COVID as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's sort of tying into our third discussion point about how we tackle planning in the new year. One of the principles that has stuck with me, and I liked what you said about you can't keep a tiger team going forever, because eventually you can't move at that speed and people get burnt out. But something we've been adopting is shorter, smaller goals, if you will, or bringing people together on a more frequent basis for iterative steps forward, rather than tackling a big 6-month-long initiative as a 6-month-long initiative. Instead, breaking it up into, okay, what are the different pieces here that we can bring a small group together, work quickly on, get it done, and then relax for a minute, and then move on to the next thing. I don't know if relax is take a breath.
We use that MVP, minimum viable product is a big focus for us as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. So moving on to the second one, sort of the concept of growth versus frugality. This is quite an interesting one for both you and Lisa. Given that your business did continue to grow through COVID, how do you as a marketing leader balance resource constraints or shifting market opportunities, and your growth targets? So, for example, were there any trade-offs you've had to make over the past 6 months, or will be having to make over the next 12 months? And within the areas of people and technology, so putting aside channel for a moment, which areas are you prioritizing investment in the coming year? Bill, since we're kind of dipping into this already, do you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, a lot I could talk about. I think I would probably say, let me talk about the focus on the technology and people side. So one of the things that we're putting forward within our 24 planning is just really solidify our digital marketing foundation. So we are making investments in our digital marketing foundation, primarily around upgrading our CMS, looking at tools like Tableau from an analytics perspective, because one of the things we need to be able to do is just be a bit more, again, using that word agile, in doing our evaluation of what tactics are working, what tactics are not working, and be able to make sure that those investments that we are making are providing the best return. I think we all know this as marketers, but data is hugely important. And as we're in digital, data just becomes even that much more important to us. And so, focusing in on our overall data management strategy, working with our sales organization just to improve the overall quality of our data. And lastly, really wanting to up-level our ABM capabilities. So I saw that our next topic is going to be ABM here. I might come check that out because that is just, where, just getting that closer intimacy with our customers, understanding how we can approach that differently, just having the tools that allow us to do that at a little bit more scale is real important. On the people side, this is one of the ones which is, as I've said, our business, high demand for our services. So we've been in a situation where we haven't had to go through layoffs. But one of the things that we have noticed is that our organization and the skills and the talent that we have are pre-COVID. And the skills and the talent that we need within marketing in this new normal or post-COVID world is very different. So I don't necessarily see where we'll be making a lot of hiring from a people perspective. I do think we'll be looking for key areas of channel and digital being most important for us. But really what it's going to be is just a step back at our resource balances across the team to really make sure that we've got folks in the right places to be able to meet the new levels of demand. And I think in some of the analysis, looking at our field marketing headcount and where, that's allocated and how we're utilizing those resources is going to be a big thing for us. And those are going to be some of the harder decisions that we'll need to make, surrounding how we're deploying those resources. But I think that's really what we need to be able to do. If anything, I think that, COVID did for us is that it really forced us to challenge all of our preconceived notions about our marketing models and our marketing tactics. I don't think any of us as marketers could ever think that there is no way I could do my marketing without doing physical events. It just would not be something that we could do. Yet we had to we were challenged by that, and I think we've all survived and succeeded, and in a lot of circumstances have thrived. And so I think our challenging those assumptions that we've had in the past and continuing to challenge ourselves and take the learnings that we've had over the last year to give us the confidence that we can continue to do the challenging. To continue to challenge our thoughts there.
Yeah. Some great points there. I've heard a lot of teams talk about cross-training and retraining their departments as well as they restructure them, or this sort of concept of field marketing still exists. It's just not in person. It's digital field marketing. And so helping that whole world of field marketers sort of adapt to the digital form of their area of specialty, I guess you could say. Lisa, super curious to hear your take on this as well, sort of resource prioritization, people and technology.
Yes. I think a lot of the things you talked about, Bill, are interesting, and the evolution of the way that we have to think about what are the skill sets that we need. I feel at Appfolio, I mean, one of the bigger teams that we actually put together during this time frame or last 6 months is the sales and marketing operations Tiger team, and that like multiple times per week connection point. That used to be maybe a monthly connection point where we would analyze a business and bring up the dashboards and, and really understand what was happening in the business with our sales partners. I think the insights, the attribution, the sourcing insights, and that, real rigor around what's working to not only generate the pipeline, but convert the pipeline was something that we'll carry into the future around the way we're designing our work together. When I think about investments, I mean, again, just like Bill experienced and yourself, Julia, we believe our value proposition, continues to increase during these times. Our offering is, more relevant than ever before, and our customers need us more than ever before. So we're focused on growth. I think we've got, bigger investments into thought leadership, credibility and market awareness, brand awareness for sure. I think account-based technology and tools and making some evolution there is going to be really important for us. We're big time ABMers, and we'll continue to invest in some new technology and really streamline some of the orchestration between marketers, BDRs, and sales, as well as services when we think about like the customer engagement and our, key account engagement, let's just say. We'll continue to invest in, the building of our dashboards and this moment-by-moment insights. I think we all learned a lot about these moment-by-moment insights, and we want to be really close to insights and decision making, so that this rapid pace of decision making is something we'll continue to focus on. And with respect to our teams, I mean, largely our team structures will remain the same. This idea of, field marketing going virtual, we've made that pivot this year, and we'll continue to invest there in this like virtual field marketing experience. I love it. We have learned a lot. We've thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall, and a lot of things have stuck. So we're excited about that, and we'll continue to innovate there. It's important for us to think of new ways to connect with both prospects and customers, and we'll continue to do all kinds of things. Virtual bartending, virtual pizza making. I mean, whatever we can kind of think about to drive that in-person field set of events, we're going to do it. I think, we're taking a look at some of the team collaboration technology. We use Airtable, Right, Slack, Zoom, all these things. And what else is out there that we need to keep our teams close as we think about entering the year? And we'll also continue to invest in fun internal team get-togethers, right? We don't get to see each other every day. And so finding ways for us to connect in new ways is that's a big thing for us. And figuring out how to stay close and intimate and, have a thriving culture is a big investment for us next year.
Yeah, it's going to be an important one, I think. I liked what you're saying about throw spaghetti at the wall, because I've been invited to spaghetti making virtual events as well. So I'm like, yep, that sounds, right on the nose there. So we've got just a few minutes left. We want to save some time for questions. We're going to wrap with the topic of planning. And Lisa, I'll start with you on this one. But if you want to maybe give us your quick take on what, if anything, has changed for you as you approach 2021 planning. And then if you've got one piece of advice that you would share with the audience for effective 2021 planning.
I think 2021, I think the key is just this customer insights and market insights. As we went through this shift to really understanding the pain and what was happening out there with our customers and market, like that focus, and like you talked about, Julia, this product marketing, like granular intimacy with customers and insights, it's a huge focus for us. And we want to be very, very close to our market, closer than ever before. I think, how we're going to allocate these traditional events and field marketing dollars into virtual is something that we're working on and committing to. We'll have an annual plan, but we'll be moment by moment around making decisions when we need to shift and change as, the world shift and changes around us next year. I think my best piece of advice is, and Bill talked about this too, is just rapid pace of decision making based on insights and being very close to what's working, what's not, and just making quick decisions when we need to as marketers. So I think that's the advice I have. Stay very close to your customer, but stay close to what's really working and not in marketing, and make fast decisions.
Yeah, that's great advice. Bill, how are you thinking about 2021 planning, if you're doing things differently, and what's your piece of advice for the audience on how to be effective at planning in 2021?
Yeah, I think for 2021, and it's probably also my advice, is just plan with what you know. So we know we're not going to be doing any physical events in the first half of the year. Great, so that's planned. Second half of the year, we don't know, so we're not going to worry about it at this moment in time. We got a couple people thinking about it, especially for sales kickoffs and sales events and stuff. But for the most part, I would go back to that agile. I wrote that like 5 times in my words of advice. Is just just being nimble, being flexible. I think the words that I keep using with my team is it's just a plan, right? You can change plans, and so just be ready to be flexible and change and be agile. I like what Lisa said about the rapid decision making. Because I think if we think back about what happened in COVID, is we responded, and we responded well. We responded with our customers at the center of what we're doing, and we're always doing the best we could at any moment in time. And so, I'm just going to keep that positive attitude, upbeat attitude going into 21, even though there's exciting possible news on vaccines. We just don't know what we don't know right now. And so plan with what we know, and just be ready for anything, because if somebody told me, a year from now, what we would have been in this last year, I wouldn't have believed them. So who knows what the next year might bring. So yeah, just be ready for anything.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I think from our perspective, I'm very much taking it one quarter at a time. Like, I personally am maybe looking to maybe 3 a little bit, but helping my team have the kind of guardrails of like, don't worry about 3 quarters out, don't worry about 2 quarters out. There's a lot of things that can change. Let's just take it one quarter at a time and be very flexible. And we're taking a much less committed approach to spend, where we're leaving a lot of, it's not slush money, but sort of money up for grabs, that each month, whoever's got a great idea and can prove it, prove initial results, we invest more in there. So that agile mindset. And then on the advice piece, from my perspective, now is the time to really make sure that you're operationally efficient, I guess you could say. I know our team took a little bit of a step back over the summer and sort of rebuilt some of our attribution systems and reporting, and made sure that's plugged really clearly into our budgeting and spend data right now, so that we can measure performance, everything that you guys are saying about having those data points at your fingertips so you can act on them. And I just think we as marketers at this point, we're more reliant than ever on the operational infrastructure of how our programs and our teams run. And so if there are chinks in your processes that are broken right now, you got to invest in them now, because the pain is just going to keep multiplying as we become more agile and have to move more quickly based on data points. So that would be my parting piece of advice as well. As you look at your planning, look at the operational infrastructure and make sure that you've got a solid foundation to be able to move fast for whatever 2021 brings us. So thank you so much. This has been a wonderful discussion. At this point, I'm going to pass things back to Claudia.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julia. And thank you to Bill and Lisa and Julia for that awesome conversation. That was truly, truly great. And it sparked some awesome questions as well. But before I get to those, I want to just remind everyone to once again share your thoughts and feedback before logging off today. That survey icon is right at the bottom of your screen, or just stick around and wait for the session to end and the survey will automatically pop up. And just a quick heads up to everyone, if we don't get to your question live right now, we will follow up via email with all the answers, so no worries, and keep the questions coming as we go through this. All right, so first question. What metrics are you looking at for 2021 planning, and have they changed since your last planning cycle?
That's a great one. I can share my quick initial thoughts, and then Lisa or Bill, please chime in. For me, it's a balance of more scrutiny on top of funnel metrics and really having the pulse on whenever we test something out, what's driving that initial engagement, more so than before. Before, our funnel metrics were pretty predictable, and so we didn't need to be so laser focused on those top of funnel interactions because we kind of knew what worked and what didn't. Now there's going to be a lot more focus on those metrics. And then sort of bottom of funnel KPIs is what I was talking about before, is really measuring and nailing the ROI piece to make sure that every dollar is really being spent efficiently and effectively. That's my 2 cents. Bill or Lisa?
I can jump in.
I would say it's very, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, sorry, I'll go. I think we've seen some shifts in the shape of the funnel, like the mid-funnel, and I think watching those KPIs very closely is important for us. Just that whole business development and the quality of the pipeline, some of those mid-funnel KPIs have changed, and those are really important for us to keep an eye on and ensure we're driving the right pipe in order to hit the targets.
Yeah, my answer is going to be very similar to Julia's. Is just the metrics haven't changed, but the level of intensity as well as the frequency in which we're evaluating all of our metrics has definitely increased. Just because we just don't have the luxury of time, we really need to be able to respond, and so we are just increasing frequency across the board and intensity.
Great, thank you. All right, I think, just looking at the time here, I think we have time for one more question. All right, of the spend trends covered today, which trends do you see continuing past the pandemic?
I'll go last on this one. Bill, maybe do you want to kick us off with your thoughts on this one first?
Yeah, I think that I don't think we'll ever see event spend recover to where it once was. I think that we fundamentally changed how we engage, how buyers buy, and I think we've really made a change there. So I do think, this trend of event spend being down, I think we will see it go back up from where it is currently, but I don't think it will return to where it once was.
Lisa, your take on this one?
Yeah, I really second that, Bill. One of the things we keep saying to ourselves is virtual and hybrid events are here to stay. And I think we'll always have this virtual hybrid component of our events moving forward. So we may have fewer or different in-person events, but we will hook a virtual component to our events moving forward. And so we'll see a bigger allocation of budget there for sure in that virtual event line item.
Yeah, I totally agree as well. We've proven we can do it without the in-person events, and let's be honest, they're really expensive. So I don't think we'll feel the pressure or need to go back to them at the same level that we did previously. I also think the increased investment in customer advocacy, customer-facing programs will continue as well. I think once you start to dial that up, it's hard for the business to dial it back without feeling the repercussions in a good way, like they should, But once you get that machine, once you build that machine and gain momentum there are so many benefits that companies will continue to increase their investment there.
Great. Thank you all so much. That's all the time we have for questions, unfortunately. But like I said, if we didn't get to yours live, don't worry. We will follow up via email. Thank you again to Julia, Bill, and Lisa for such a great conversation. And thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time to join us today. Just a quick heads up, be sure to check out the next presentation of SPS 2020, and it's titled The Future of Intent. Is your ABM program ready? I will be moderating that as well, so I hope to see you all tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Take care, everyone. Thank you.